Kahalayim La Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai. Wahara Kakadash. All praises and glory go to you, Lord. Double honors and respect go to our apostles, elders, teachers, men of great millstone. To you I say shalom. It's your brother Amraya back with another one. And what you have here is a video that's 10 years old. It is of a professor talking about the pitfalls of capitalism and discussing some talking points from around the world in that time, which displays the decay that began long before we got to 2021. As he does his discussion, I'll let you hear his talking points to remind you that this kingdom is on its way out. The world society, the way it is done, is on a downfall, on a down spiral, which we will filter through the scriptures after we hear his talking points. So without further ado, let's begin the video. And again, I do not own the rights to this video. I am simply using this as education purposes only. Let's get into it.
Thank you all for coming along and showing that you care enough to think about becoming part of a change. This program that I've just started last week on WBAI begins with music from one of the great musicians of the 20th century, John Lee Hooker, and the song ends up with the line, "Change is gonna come." And I picked that because it does really seem, after so many times when I hoped for it, but didn't quite get it, or hoped for it and saw it and then saw it fade out. And I know that we don't know yet where the current moment is going to go, but it was heartening to see 70,000 people in Wisconsin say something. And even though it's a smaller number in Ohio that's doing it now, same issue, by the way. The government in Ohio is about to take away the bargaining rights of public employees in Ohio, just as they voted to do in Wisconsin, and other states are underway. The response and the fight back is really extraordinary. It's taken longer here. And while I'm going to, in a minute, go through the crisis and where we are in it, I do want to talk a little bit for a moment about the reaction in other parts of the world, at least so that everyone's clear what can be done. I'm going to pick just a few European countries because they are ahead of us in this sort of thing. Greece, 6 general strikes in 2010, 1 so far this year. It's still early. They shut the place down, and they are making major headway in putting together an opposition to the imposition of austerity there, which is very severe. I went to Athens last spring and happened to be there when the public employees got their first wage cut. 20% less one day in the weekly check that would be then maintained in one act, 20%. The professors, because it's a public education system there, they're all public employees, and they all came to me at the end of my talk and said, you know, look at this. How am I supposed to pay my children's education? How am I supposed to do all the rest? In France, in the summer of last year, the French, who do these things with a flair, literally shut the country down. It was extraordinary. You could not get in and out of Paris. You could not make a phone call. The telephone workers stopped the process. The working class in France basically said, nothing's going to happen. Simultaneous demonstrations in 270 cities across France, the same hour of the same day, just to let everyone know. 2.5 million people. That's in a country much smaller than ours. Give you some idea of what happened. 4 general strikes last year in Italy. For some reason, the American newspapers do not report most of this sort of thing, but I'm just telling you what any European newspaper would have reported on. And lest you think this was all last year, let me give you a couple of other examples. 10 days ago, 2.5% of the population of Portugal went out on the street. That would mean in the United States, 2.5%, something like 7, 8 million people. We've never had 7, 8 million people come out for anything in the United States. That would be an unheard of historical break. And 4 days later, the government of Portugal collapsed, which, in case you haven't paid attention, because it's not front page news exactly, there is no government in Portugal right now.
No, the interesting thing about all of this is that these are all Edomite countries that he is speaking about for the most part. Though there are some Jakes, you know, that are residents of these areas. What you have here is the people rebelling all the way back in President Obama's time as president because their wages have been cut, and they took to the streets to boycott and to protest. And what are we seeing in 2021? We're seeing people take to the streets, boycott, and protest. However, it is not causing any change. The condition is set in. And we'll get some scriptures on the matter here in a minute. You know, it's funny. You know, taking to the streets, protesting, and all of this was a precursor, and it's been going on since 2010. The people have been going to the streets, protesting and complaining and boycotting. And when I say people, I mean the Edomites, all around these different various countries, and the 2/3 that are attached onto them and other heathen nations have been complaining about the downfall of their societies, wage cuts, unrighteous decrees, all of these things that were indications of the falling of their kingdom. And as you hear in the video, he talks about Portugal not having a government all the way back then. Now, he might not understand what's going on, but we in the truth understood it and are understanding that the Lord is bringing this place down piece by piece, brick by brick, king by king. We know that his word does not go out void, that it returns onto him completed in its perfection. And he has already cursed this world's kings and their kingdoms, that they may be brought down low, and that he may set over one that is profitable, which is Yahushai, HaMashiach. This is Isaiah chapter 14. And this gives kind of sarcasm when it comes, but this is why I love Yahweh's word so much, because he has a way of, putting these words together that just stir up your spirit. Isaiah chapter 14, verse 9, it says, "Hell from beneath is moved for thee to meet thee at thy coming." And this is talking about the Edomites, the so-called white man. "It stirreth up the dead for thee, even all the chief ones of the earth. It have raised up from their thrones all the kings of the nations." Verse 10, "All they shall speak and say unto thee, Art thou also become as weak as we? Art thou become like unto us?" Because this man is ruled with an iron fist so long, and no one was able to knock him off of that stool, that he walks around like he's invincible. But now we're starting to see that the Lord is bringing them down to the ground, buckling those knees, so to speak. And the other nations, they're going to ask, "Are you as weak as we? Art thou become like unto us?" Verse 11, "Thy pomp is brought down to the grave, and the noise of thy vows. The worm is spread under thee, and the worms cover thee. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which did weaken the nations?" Let's see what else he has to say, and we'll come back with some more scriptures here in a moment.
And the interesting thing, to underscore what Matt said, the interesting thing about Portugal is that all the other political parties broke with tradition. The left-wing parties, I should mention, Portugal has left-wing parties. Portugal has a communist party, for example, regularly gets between 10 and 20% of the vote. Very strong. It has a variety of left parties, and it has a variety of right-wing and conservative parties. The government was pushing through the third stage of an austerity program, cutbacks in services, cutbacks in employees. But something happened. And when they put forward this next phase of it, all the other political parties, not just the left-wing ones, but the right-wing ones, said, no, can't do it. And the press went to them and said, well, you voted for it before. What happened? Well, they said, we want to do it. We understand the reasons. But our constituents have told us that if we vote for another step of austerity, they'll never vote for us again. And we are politicians, and much as we would like to keep going and doing what we can't anymore because we're finished if we do it. So the government collapsed. And no one knows what's going to happen in Portugal. But that is a sign of something much bigger and much more profound. That hasn't happened yet in other European countries. It's an extraordinarily important step because it's a unified across the political spectrum that this making people pay for the economic crisis by suffering cuts in services, suffering more unemployment, that won't wash. So let's turn to the United States, which is where we are and where we live, and go through a little bit of this process too. And again, I want to start at the end, sort of like telling the punchline and then going and building the joke up again. We are in a society that has about 10% unemployment now. The unemployment, just so you know, is when we give that number, 9–10% that you hear on the radio, that only refers to the people who are adults looking for work and unable to find it. The Bureau of Labor Statistics in Washington actually keeps these statistics every week and every month, has a number they prefer, and which is a much better number to understand unemployment, and that adds together three groups. The people who are adults looking for work and unable to find it, but it adds two other groups. People who are part-time but want a full-time job. They're unable to get a full-time job, but they want it, because these people are figuratively, partly at least, unemployed relative to what they're capable of and what they want. And the third group you might like really better, they have a wonderful name by the statisticians, marginal workers. Who are they? They're the ones who have looked for so long that they've given up looking. Now, the Bureau of Labor Statistics counts these. If you put them all together, the unemployment rate in the United States right now is 16.25%. 1 out of 6 Americans in the workforce is in one of those three groups. That means every family in America has somebody, cousin, uncle, sister, niece, in that box. And if you're suffering that kind of income loss, then you become, sooner or later, whether you mean it or not, a bit of a burden on the others, making it harder for everybody because you turn to your friends and neighbors and your relatives to help you. So the unemployment here is terrible, terrible, and hasn't gotten appreciably better for 2 years. There's no recovery in the realm of employment that matters. Nothing remotely like a return to what we had.
And now we have unemployment statistics from the last 2 years, which clearly show that the rate is upwards of about 16%. There is no healing of the wound. It is grievous. Let's go ahead and get some scriptures on the matter now. This is Isaiah chapter 47 and verse 1. It says, "Come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon," which is America. Continuing on, "Sit on the ground, there is no throne, O daughter of the Chaldeans, for thou shalt no more be called tender and delicate." The Lord is saying here in this verse, through man, that your kingdom is now worth nothing. There is no throne. There is no crown. He is bringing this place to its heels. Let's continue reading. Verse 2. Take the millstones and grind meal, uncover the locks. Make bare the leg, uncover the thigh, pass over the rivers. Thy nakedness shall be uncovered, and thy nakedness is a symbolization of thy sins. Huh? Verse 3, thy nakedness shall be uncovered, yea, thy shame shall be seen. I will take vengeance, and I will not meet thee as a man. Huh? Verse 5, sit thou silent, and get thee into darkness, O daughter of the Chaldeans, for thou shalt no more be called the lady of kingdoms. I was wroth with my people, the 12 tribes of Israel, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. Verse 6, I was wroth with my people, and I have polluted mine inheritance, and given them into thine hand. Thou didst show them no mercy. Upon the ancient hast thou very heavily laid thy yoke. And speaking of yokes of iron, put us in slavery and had no mercy on us. Verse 7, and thou said, I shall be a lady forever, so that thou did not lay these things to heart, neither did thou remember the latter end of it. Therefore hear now this, thou that art given into pleasures, that dwellest carelessly, that sayest in thine heart, I am, and none else beside me. I shall not sit as a widow, neither shall I know the loss of children. And that's coming here real soon. You will know the loss of children. You will get your ass handed to you in the next world's war. They are going to shoot fire on this place. This place meaning America. All your matter of fact, let's get it. This is Obadiah chapter 1 and verse 7. Actually, verse 6 is where we begin. It says, how are the things of Esau searched out? How are his hidden things sought up? And Esau is the so-called white man. Verse 7, all the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee and prevailed against thee. They that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee. There is none understanding in him. Shall I not in that day, saith Yahweh, even destroy the wise man out of Edom, and the understanding out of the mount of Esau? And the mighty men, O Teman, shall be dismayed, to the end that every one of the mount of Esau may be cut off by slaughter. This is Revelations chapter 17 and verse 16. Actually, verse 12. And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as of yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. These have one mind, and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. These shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them, for he is Lord of lords and King of kings. And they that are with him are called chosen and faithful, and these are the elect of Israel. And the Lamb is Yahushua. Verse 15, and he saith unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the whore sitteth, and the whore is the daughter of Babylon, America the great harlot. Verse 15, and he saith unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the whore sitteth, are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, all the men of thy confederacy, right? And shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. That is nuclear fire. They're going to shoot their nuclear warheads on this bitch. Verse 17, for God hath put it in their hearts to fulfill his will, and to agree, and to give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai shall be fulfilled. And this is the prophecy that is going to come true, because the word of the Lord does not return unto him void. You so-called white people, you have hell to pay. And what's coming down the pike for you is that you shall be cut off by slaughter. going to finish out here because I don't want to make this way too long. I might do several parts to this, but this is Nahum chapter 3 and verse 16. It says, Thou hast multiplied thy merchants above the stars of heaven. The cankerworm spoileth and flieth away. Thy crowned are as the locusts, and thy captains as the great grasshoppers, which camp in the hedges in the cold day. Salaki. But when the sun ariseth, they flee away, and their place is not known where they are. Thy shepherds slumber, O king of Assyria. Thy nobles shall dwell in the dust. Thy people is scattered upon the mountains, and no man gathereth them. Why, Lord? Because there is no healing of thy bruise. Thy wound is grievous. All that hear the bruit of thee shall clap the hands over thee. For upon whom have not thy wickedness passed continually? And the ways of this world is wickedness. Matter of fact, let's get it. This is John chapter 7, and this is where we will end. And verse 6, it says, Then Yahushua said unto them, My time is not yet come, but your time is always ready. Verse 7, The world cannot hate you, but me it hateth. Why, Lord? Because I testify of it, that the works thereof are evil. The whole works of this world is evil. The way this system is set up, the monetary, these false balances, the FRN notes, which are debt-bearing notes, lies, robbery, deceit. This is a kingdom likened unto Sodom and Gomorrah, and you know why I say that. And what you have here is the Lord finally bringing this place down and putting an end to the madness. So until the next time, I want to say, Kal halal la Yahweh ba Hashem Yahushai, Wahara Kakadash for this lesson. I want to say, Bad Babal and Kwam Yasharallah.